Nora, you called the cops on your own husband for a joke.
Graham, it wasn't supposed to go that far. It was just a prank.
The handcuffs bit into my wrists as I knelt on my own front lawn at midnight, still wearing my grease-stained work clothes from the logistics warehouse. 20 minutes earlier, I'd been under the hood of my busted pickup truck, trying to fix a radiator leak by the dim glow of a flashlight. Now I was surrounded by 3 patrol cars, their red and blue lights painting the entire neighborhood like some twisted Christmas display. Before we dive deeper into this story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible Reddit stories. Ma'am, can you confirm this is the intruder you reported? Officer Martinez asked my wife Nora, who stood on our front porch in her silk pajamas, arms crossed, trying way too hard to look scared. Yes, that's him, Nora said, her voice trembling with what I thought was fear until I noticed the phone in her hand. The screen was lit up with a FaceTime call, and I could hear a man's laughter coming through the speaker. Babe, you're absolutely wild, the voice said. I wish I could see his face right now. That's when Nora flipped her phone around, pointing the camera directly at me kneeling in the grass, wrists zip-tied behind my back, confusion and humiliation written all over my face. Oh wait, now I can. Lance's voice came through crystal clear, followed by more laughter. The realization hit me like a freight train. This wasn't a case of mistaken identity. This wasn't my wife being scared and calling the cops on her own husband by accident. This was a prank. A deliberate, calculated prank designed to humiliate me for the entertainment of her coworker Lance Pritchard, the guy who'd been hanging around our house way too much lately, always with some excuse about work stuff from the salon. Very funny, Nora, I said through gritted teeth. Real hilarious. Officer Martinez looked from me to Nora, then back to me. Sir, do you live at this address? Yeah, I live here. This is my house. That's my wife up there having a good laugh with her boyfriend. He's not my boyfriend, Nora protested, but she was still holding the phone up, still broadcasting my humiliation to Lance. He's just a friend from work, and Graham, you looked so suspicious out there in the dark. How was I supposed to know it was you? Maybe because I've been working on the same truck in the same driveway for the past 3 weeks. Maybe because I told you I'd be out here tonight fixing the radiator. Maybe because this is where I live. The officer was starting to piece things together. He walked over to my truck and shined his flashlight on the open hood, the scattered tools, the puddle of coolant on the driveway. How long have you been working on this vehicle tonight, sir? Since about 10:30. Got home from my second shift, grabbed some tools, been trying to patch this leak so I can get to work tomorrow. Martinez turned to Nora. Ma'am, did you know your husband was planning to work on his truck tonight? Nora's confident smirk started to falter. Well, I mean, maybe he mentioned something, but it was dark, and I heard noises, and I got scared, and you decided to call your coworker instead of checking to see if it was your husband? I was scared. But Lance's voice was still coming through the phone speaker. This is better than Netflix. Are you recording this? That's when I knew for certain that this whole thing was planned. This wasn't fear or confusion. This was entertainment. My humiliation was their Friday night comedy show. Officer Martinez looked disgusted. He walked over and cut my zip ties with a knife from his belt. Mr. O'Neill, you're free to go. Ma'am, filing a false police report is a misdemeanor. We're going to need to have a conversation about this. As I stood up, rubbing circulation back into my wrists, I could hear Lance through the phone. Wait, are they letting him go? This is just getting good. Nora finally seemed to realize that her prank had gone too far. She ended the FaceTime call and tried to approach me. Graham, honey, I'm sorry. I really thought you were someone else. It was just a misunderstanding. No, I said quietly, looking her straight in the eye. A misunderstanding is when you call the cops because you genuinely think there's a stranger in your yard. A prank is when you do it for laughs while your boyfriend watches on video chat. And what you just did? That was a prank. The police spent another 20 minutes taking statements and explaining to Nora exactly why filing false reports was illegal. I spent that time putting my tools away and thinking about how many late nights Nora had been working at the salon lately, thinking about how often Lance had been calling the house, thinking about how she'd been acting different for months, more secretive, more critical of everything I did. But mostly I was thinking about the look on her face when she pointed that phone at me. Not embarrassed that she'd made a mistake, not sorry that her husband was in handcuffs, proud, excited, like she'd just pulled off the perfect joke. After the police left, Nora tried to smooth things over. Come on, Graham, you have to admit it's a little funny. You should have seen your face. Should have seen my face? I did see my face, on Lance's phone screen, while you broadcast my humiliation to your coworker at midnight. It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Nora? Explain it to me. She couldn't. She went to bed claiming she was too tired to deal with my overreaction, and I spent the night on the couch, staring at the ceiling and listening to her text message notifications going off every few minutes upstairs. The next morning, I did something I'd never done in 15 years of marriage. I logged into our cell phone account online and downloaded the call and text records for the past 6 months. What I found there made me freeze. Hundreds of calls between Nora and Lance. Calls that lasted hours, happening while I was at work. Text message threads that went on all night long. And the timing of it all lined up perfectly with when Nora had started working late and when she'd started picking fights with me over every little thing. I also found something else interesting. The police department's website had a section where you could request copies of police reports and body camera footage for incidents involving your property. I submitted the request that morning, citing for my attorney's review. By noon, I had a crystal clear video file of the entire incident. Me in handcuffs, confused and humiliated. Nora on the porch with her phone, and clearly enjoying the show. Lance's voice coming through loud and clear, talking about how entertaining it all was. I made 3 copies of that video file and saved them in different places. Then I called my brother Mike and asked if I could crash at his place for a few days. Everything okay, Graham? Not really, but it's about to be. Mike's apartment was a bachelor pad in the truest sense. Pizza boxes, empty beer bottles, and a couch that had seen better days. But it was quiet, and it gave me space to think. More importantly, it gave me space to plan. I'd taken 3 days off work, telling my supervisor I had a family emergency. It wasn't exactly a lie. My family was definitely in a state of emergency, even if Nora didn't know it yet. The first thing I did was visit Marty's boxing gym, where I'd been training twice a week for the past 5 years. Marty Kowalski was 62 years old, built like a brick wall, and had the kind of street wisdom that came from growing up in the rougher parts of town. "You look like hell, Graham," Marty said as I walked into the gym Tuesday morning. "Feel like hell, too." I started wrapping my hands for the heavy bag. "Want to talk about it?" I told him the whole story. The prank, the phone call with Lance, the months of suspicious behavior, the call records I'd found. Marty listened without interrupting, occasionally nodding or grunting in understanding. When I finished, Marty was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, "You want my advice? That's why I'm here. Don't swing wild. When you're angry, when you want to hurt someone, your instinct is to throw haymakers. Big, obvious punches that everyone can see coming. Smart fighters don't do that. Smart fighters go for the body shots. Precise, calculated. The kind of hits that don't look like much from the outside, but they do real damage where it counts. Meaning? Meaning if you want payback, don't do anything stupid. Don't key her car, don't punch her boyfriend, don't post angry rants on Facebook. Be smart. Hit where it hurts, but hit clean." I spent 2 hours working the heavy bag, thinking about what Marty had said. By the time I left the gym, I had the beginnings of a plan. My next stop was the law office of Patricia Hendricks, a divorce attorney I'd found online with excellent reviews and a reputation for being thorough. Her office was in a converted Victorian house downtown, all dark wood and leather furniture that was meant to project competence and discretion. "Mr. O'Neill," she said, gesturing for me to sit across from her desk. "You mentioned on the phone that you're considering divorce proceedings?" "More than considering. I want to file as soon as possible." I told her about the prank, showed her the body camera footage, and explained about the phone records I'd discovered. Patricia watched the video twice, taking notes. "This is quite unusual," she said finally. "In most cases, we're dealing with more traditional forms of infidelity or incompatibility. But what your wife did here? This shows a deliberate pattern of deception and humiliation. Can I use this in the divorce?" "Absolutely. The false police report alone demonstrates questionable judgment. The fact that she did it for entertainment while having an apparent emotional affair with this coworker? Yes, this will be very useful, especially since you have documentation." Patricia explained the divorce process, the timeline, and what I could expect. She also gave me some advice that echoed what Marty had said. Don't do anything that could be construed as harassment or retaliation. Don't contact the other man. Don't post about this on social media. Don't do anything that could make you look like the aggressor. Let the evidence speak for itself. What about the false police report? Is that something I can pursue separately? You could file a complaint with the police department. Filing a false report is a misdemeanor in this state. It probably wouldn't result in jail time for a first offense, but it would create a criminal record. I left Patricia's office with a retainer agreement and a timeline. She would file the divorce papers by the end of the week, but first, I had some other business to take care of. That evening, I drove back to the house when I knew Nora would be at work. I needed to collect some of my things, and I wanted to do some more investigating while I had the chance. Our home computer was in the spare bedroom that Nora used as an office. She'd never been particularly careful about passwords. She used the same one for everything, our daughter Sophie's name and birth year. I'd seen her type it dozens of times. Her email account was a goldmine. Months of messages between her and Lance, starting casual and work-related, but gradually becoming more personal, more intimate. Messages about how unhappy she was in her marriage, how I didn't appreciate her, how Lance made her feel alive again. But the real revelation came when I found emails between Nora and her sister Jennifer in California. Messages where Nora laid out her entire plan. "I'm thinking about leaving Graham," she'd written 3 months ago. "But I want to make sure I have everything lined up first. Lance says I should document all of Graham's bad behavior so I have ammunition for the divorce." Jennifer's response was encouraging. "You deserve to be happy, Nora. If Graham isn't making you happy, then you need to do what's right for you." 2 weeks later. "I'm trying to get Graham to lose his temper so I can record it. Lance thinks if I can show that Graham is unstable or aggressive, I'll have a better chance at getting the house and full custody of Sophie." And then, just 5 days before the prank, Lance and I came up with the perfect plan to show everyone what kind of man Graham really is. We're going to catch him off guard and see how he reacts under pressure. If he gets violent or loses control, it'll be perfect evidence for the divorce. I sat back in the chair, staring at the screen. The prank hadn't been a spur-of-the-moment joke. It had been a setup, a deliberate attempt to provoke me into doing something that would make me look bad in divorce proceedings. The only problem with their plan was that I hadn't taken the bait. I'd stayed calm, answered the police officers' questions respectfully, and hadn't given them the explosive reaction they were hoping for. I printed out all of the relevant emails and put them in a folder. Then I did something else. I forwarded the entire email chain between Nora and Jennifer to my own personal email account, the one Nora didn't know about. Before I left the house, I checked one more thing, our joint checking account. Nora had been making some unusual purchases lately, expensive dinners at restaurants I'd never been to, charges at lingerie stores, payments to a spa I'd never heard of. I made copies of all the bank statements and credit card bills from the past 6 months. Then I transferred half of our joint savings into a new individual account I'd opened that morning. It was my money too, and I had a feeling I was going to need it. As I was packing a suitcase with more of my clothes, I heard a car in the driveway. Nora was home early. She walked into the bedroom as I was folding shirts into the suitcase. "What are you doing?" "Packing." "Graham, come on. This is ridiculous. It was just a harmless prank. You're acting like I committed some terrible crime." I looked at her for a long moment. She was still beautiful, still the woman I'd fallen in love with 17 years ago, but something in her eyes had changed. There was a coldness there that I'd been trying to ignore for months. "Nora, I know about Lance." Her face went pale. "What do you mean?" "I mean, I know about the phone calls, the text messages, the emails to your sister. I know this whole thing was a setup to try to make me look bad." For a moment, she looked like she was going to deny it. Then her expression hardened. "So what if it was? You want to know the truth, Graham? The truth is that I've been miserable for years. You work all the time, you never talk to me, you never take me anywhere or do anything fun. Lance makes me feel like a woman again." "Then why didn't you just ask for a divorce? Why the elaborate prank? Why try to humiliate me?" "Because I wanted you to know how it feels to be embarrassed and powerless, and have everyone looking at you like you're pathetic." "Is that how I make you feel?" "Every day." I finished packing my suitcase and zipped it closed. "Well, you won't have to feel that way much longer." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means you'll be hearing from my lawyer soon." I walked past her toward the door, but she grabbed my arm. "Graham, wait. We can work this out. We can go to counseling or something. I don't want to get divorced." "You should have thought about that before you decided to humiliate me for your boyfriend's entertainment." "He's not my boyfriend." I pulled out my phone and played one of the voicemails Lance had left on our home phone the week before. His voice filled the bedroom. "Hey, beautiful, can't wait to see you tonight. Wear that blue dress I like, the one that drives me crazy." Nora's face crumpled. "Graham, please, I made a mistake. I can fix this." "No, Nora, you can't. Some things can't be fixed." I left her standing in our bedroom and drove back to Mike's apartment. But I wasn't done yet, not even close. The next morning, I put my plan into motion. First stop was the police station, where I filed a formal complaint about the false report. Detective Sarah Alvarez, a no-nonsense woman in her 40s, reviewed the body camera footage and my documentation. "This is pretty clear-cut," she said. "Your wife knowingly filed a false report for what appears to be entertainment purposes. We'll investigate and likely file charges." "How long does that usually take?" "A few weeks for the paperwork to go through the system. She'll probably get a citation and a fine, maybe some community service, but it'll be on her record. Next, I drove to Nora's workplace. Salon Elegance was an upscale beauty salon in the trendy part of town, the kind of place where wealthy women went to gossip and get pampered. Nora had been working there for 8 years, first as a stylist, then as the assistant manager. I'd never met Sal Benedetto, the owner, but I'd heard plenty about him from Nora. He was old-school Italian, very concerned about his business's reputation, and he didn't tolerate drama among his employees. "Mr. Benedetto?" I said as I walked into the salon. "I'm Graham O'Neill, Nora's husband. I was wondering if I could have a word with you privately." Sal was a short, stocky man in his 60s with silver hair and an expensive suit. He looked surprised to see me but led me back to his office. "Is everything okay? Nora's not in today." "That's actually what I wanted to talk to you about." I pulled out my phone and showed him the body camera footage. "This happened 3 nights ago. I thought you should know that one of your employees is involved in some questionable behavior." Sal watched the video with growing alarm. When it got to the part where Lance's voice came through clearly, encouraging Nora to humiliate me, his expression darkened. "This Lance person, he works here?" "Lance Pritchard. He's one of your stylists." "And they were doing this for entertainment?" "According to the police report and the evidence I found, yes. They planned it specifically to humiliate me and record my reaction." Sal was quiet for a long moment, rewatching parts of the video. "Mr. O'Neill, I want you to know that this kind of behavior doesn't represent the values of my business. We serve a lot of prominent families in this community, and our reputation is everything." "I understand. I'm not asking you to fire anyone or take any specific action. I just thought you should be aware of what your employees are doing in their personal time, especially when it involves illegal activity like filing false police reports." I left the salon and drove to my next destination, Lance Pritchard's apartment complex. I wasn't going to confront him. That would be stupid and potentially illegal. But I wanted to see where he lived, get a sense of his lifestyle. Lance lived in a modern complex called the Meridian, the kind of place with a pool, a fitness center, and rent that costs more than most people's mortgages. His car was in the parking lot, a bright red Mustang convertible with custom rims and a vanity plate that read Lance 1. I sat in my truck for a few minutes, taking photos of the car and the apartment building. Not for any nefarious purpose, just documentation. If this thing escalated, I wanted to have as much information as possible. My phone rang. It was Patricia, my lawyer. "Graham, I have some news. I've filed your divorce petition, and I've also filed a motion for temporary exclusive use of the marital home. Given the evidence of your wife's affair and the false police report, I think we have a strong case." "How long before she gets served?" "The process server is heading to her workplace this afternoon. She should have the papers by 5 o'clock. "Her workplace? I thought you'd serve her at home." "Public service often has more impact. It sends a message that you're serious and that you're not trying to hide anything." After I hung up, I realized that Patricia's timing was perfect. I'd just shown Sal the video evidence of his employee's behavior, and now Nora was about to be served with divorce papers at work. The combination would definitely get people talking. I spent the rest of the afternoon at Mike's apartment, waiting. Around 6 o'clock, my phone started ringing. First, it was Nora. "Graham, what the hell is this? Divorce papers? Are you out of your mind? I told you that you'd be hearing from my lawyer. You had me served at work, in front of everyone. Do you have any idea how embarrassing that was? Do you have any idea how embarrassing it was to be handcuffed on my own lawn while you laughed about it with your boyfriend? I told you, Lance isn't my boyfriend. Nora, I've seen the emails, I've heard the voicemails, I know about the dinners, the lingerie, all of it. Just stop lying." There was a long silence. Then, "Fine. Yes, Lance and I have been seeing each other. But it's not what you think. We're just friends who got a little too close. It doesn't mean anything. It means something to me. Graham, please, don't do this. Think about Sophie. Think about our family." "I am thinking about Sophie. I'm thinking about what kind of example we're setting for her. What kind of marriage we're modeling. We can fix this." "No, we can't. I'll have someone come get the rest of my things this weekend." I hung up. 10 minutes later, Mike called. "Dude, your wife is blowing up my phone. She wants to know where you're staying." "Don't tell her." "I wasn't planning to, but she's pretty upset. She's saying you're ruining her life over a harmless prank." "It wasn't harmless, and it wasn't just a prank. She's been having an affair, Mike. The prank was just the final straw." "Jesus. I'm sorry, man. I had no idea." "Neither did I, until 3 days ago." That evening, I got another call, this one from a number I didn't recognize. "Is this Graham O'Neill?" The voice was male, angry. Who's asking? This is Lance Pritchard. I think we need to have a conversation. I don't think we do. Look, man, this whole thing has gotten way out of hand. Nora's a mess. We both got fired today, and now everyone in town is talking about us like we're criminals or something. You got fired? Yeah, thanks to you. Sal saw that video you showed him and decided we were bad for business, so congratulations. You just cost 2 people their jobs over a stupid prank. I didn't cost you anything, Lance. You did that to yourselves when you decided to humiliate me for entertainment. It was just a joke. Filing a false police report isn't a joke. It's a crime. And having an affair with a married woman isn't a joke either. We're not having an affair. We're friends. Friends don't leave voicemails talking about blue dresses that drive them crazy. Lance was quiet for a moment. Look, I'm sorry about the prank, okay? It was stupid. But you're taking this way too far. You're destroying people's lives. I'm not destroying anything. I'm just making sure the truth comes out. The truth? You want to know the truth? The truth is that Nora's been unhappy for years. She stays with you out of obligation, not love. She deserves better than some boring warehouse worker who never takes her anywhere or does anything exciting. If she was so unhappy, she should have asked for a divorce instead of cheating and then trying to set me up to look bad. She wasn't trying to set you up. Lance, I've seen the emails. I know the whole thing was planned to try to get me to lose my temper so you'd have evidence for the divorce. The only problem is that your plan didn't work. Another long silence. Then, stay away from us, Graham. I'm warning you. Or what? Or you'll regret it. I laughed. Is that a threat, Lance? It's a promise. I hung up and immediately called Detective Alvarez to report the threatening phone call. She took down all the details and advised me to keep a record of any further contact. Mr. O'Neill, I have to ask, are you planning any retaliation against these people? No, Detective. I'm letting the legal system handle it. Good. Keep it that way. Don't give them any ammunition to use against you. But as I sat in Mike's apartment that night, listening to the rain against the windows, I realized that Lance had made a serious mistake. He'd threatened me, which was illegal, and more importantly, he'd confirmed that the prank had been a setup, which gave me even more ammunition for the divorce proceedings. I was starting to understand what Marty had meant about body shots. I wasn't throwing wild haymakers, trying to knock anyone out with one big punch. I was working methodically, precisely, hitting where it would do the most damage over time, and I was just getting started. The next morning brought unexpected news. Detective Alvarez called to inform me that Lance had been arrested for making terroristic threats. Apparently, after he'd called me, he'd also called my workplace and threatened to come down there and teach me a lesson. My supervisor had reported it to the police. He's been released on his own recognizance, Detective Alvarez explained, but he's got a restraining order against him now. He can't contact you or come within 500 feet of your home or workplace. What about Nora? We're still processing the false report charge. She'll probably get a citation in the next week or two. After I hung up, I realized that Lance's arrest would be public record. In a town this size, word would spread quickly. I decided to help it along. I drove to Murphy's Tavern, the local bar where a lot of guys from the warehouse went after work. It was early afternoon, so the place was mostly empty except for a few regulars and the bartender, Tommy Murphy, who'd owned the place for 20 years. Graham, haven't seen you in a while. The usual? Just a Coke, Tommy. I'm not drinking today. Tommy poured my drink and leaned against the bar. You okay? You look like hell. Been a rough week. I told him about the prank, the divorce, and Lance's arrest, showing him the body camera footage on my phone. Tommy watched the video with growing amazement. Jesus Christ, Graham. Your own wife did this to you? Yep. And her boyfriend got arrested yesterday for threatening me. Lance Pritchard? That pretty boy from the salon? You know him? He comes in here sometimes, usually with different women. Acts like he's God's gift to the world, always bragging about his conquests and talking down to the waitresses. Well, he won't be coming in for a while. He's got a restraining order now. Tommy shook his head. I'm sorry, man. That's just wrong. A man's home should be his sanctuary, you know? The one place where he's safe. That's what I thought, too. Word of Lance's arrest spread through town like wildfire. By evening, my phone was ringing with calls from friends, co-workers, and even some people I barely knew, all wanting to hear the story. I told it the same way each time, factually, without embellishment, letting the events speak for themselves. The next day, I got a call from Sophie, my 16-year-old daughter. She was staying with Nora's parents across town while all this was happening. Dad, is it true that Mom called the cops on you? Yes, sweetheart, it's true. And she was on the phone with Lance while it happened? Yes. Sophie was quiet for a moment. I saw the video, Dad. Someone posted it on Facebook. My heart sank. I'm sorry you had to see that, Sophie. Don't be sorry. I'm glad I saw it. I'm glad everyone can see what Mom really did to you. Sophie, your mother and I are having problems, but that doesn't mean... Dad, stop. I'm 16, not 6. I know Mom's been cheating on you. I've known for months. I've seen the text messages, heard the phone calls. I was wondering when you were going to figure it out. Why didn't you tell me? Because I was hoping she'd come to her senses and stop. But she didn't. She just kept getting worse. And now she's trying to play the victim and telling everyone that you're being mean to her. What do you mean? She's been posting on Facebook about how you're trying to destroy her life, how you're being vindictive and cruel. She's making herself look like the innocent victim of a bitter husband. That afternoon, I created a Facebook account for the first time in my life. I'd never been interested in social media, but I needed to see what Nora was saying. Her posts were exactly what Sophie had described. Long, emotional rants about how I was trying to destroy her reputation and turn everyone against her. She portrayed herself as the victim of a harmless prank that I was blowing out of proportion. But the comments on her posts told a different story. Most people weren't buying it. The body camera video had been shared widely, and people could see for themselves what had really happened. Nora, calling 911 as a prank isn't funny, one person wrote. That's a crime. I can't believe you did this to Graham, wrote another. He's always been such a good guy. This is why I don't trust women, added a third. They'll stab you in the back and then play the victim. But there were also some supportive comments, mostly from women who didn't know the full story. Don't let him intimidate you, girl. You deserve better. Men are all the same. I decided it was time to set the record straight. I created my own post, keeping it factual and unemotional. Some of you have been asking about the situation with my wife. Here are the facts. On Monday night, while I was working on my truck in our driveway, Nora called 911 and reported me as an intruder. She did this while on a video call with Lance Pritchard for their entertainment. This was not a misunderstanding or an accident. It was a planned prank designed to humiliate me. I have filed for divorce and reported the false police report to the authorities. Lance has been arrested for making threats against me. I ask for your privacy during this difficult time. I attached the body camera video to the post and hit share. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within an hour, the post had dozens of comments and shares. People were outraged on my behalf, sharing their own stories of betrayal and offering support. But more importantly, the post established the narrative. Instead of Nora's version of events, innocent wife victimized by cruel husband, people could see the truth for themselves. My phone rang. It was Nora, and she was furious. How dare you post that video on Facebook? That's private. It's public record, Nora. Anyone can request body camera footage. You're trying to destroy my reputation. I'm not trying to destroy anything. I'm just telling the truth. The truth? The truth is that you're a vindictive bastard who can't take a joke. The truth is that you cheated on me, lied to me, and then tried to humiliate me for your boyfriend's entertainment. The truth is that your boyfriend got arrested for threatening me. The truth is that you both lost your jobs because your boss didn't want to be associated with people who file false police reports. We lost our jobs because of you. No, you lost your jobs because of your choices. Actions have consequences, Nora. I hate you. I know. You've made that pretty clear. She hung up, but the calls kept coming. Friends offering support, co-workers expressing disbelief, even some strangers who'd seen the video and wanted to share their own experiences. The most surprising call came from Sarah Pritchard, Lance's wife. I'd sent her copies of the text messages and call logs between Lance and Nora a few days earlier, but I hadn't heard back from her. Mr. O'Neill, this is Sarah Pritchard. I wanted to thank you for sending me that information about my husband. I'm sorry you had to find out that way. Don't be sorry. I needed to know. I've suspected for months that something was going on, but I didn't have proof. What are you going to do? I've already done it. I filed for divorce yesterday, and I'm taking him for everything he's worth. I'm sorry your marriage is ending. I'm not. Lance is a narcissist and a cheater. He's probably been unfaithful our entire marriage. Your wife just happened to be the one I caught him with. How are you handling all this? Better than he is. Lance is falling apart. Getting arrested, losing his job, now facing divorce, it's all hitting him at once. He called me crying yesterday, begging me to take him back. Are you going to? Hell no. I'm done with cheaters and liars. After we hung up, I realized that my methodical approach was working better than I'd hoped. I hadn't done anything illegal or unethical. I'd simply documented the truth and let the consequences unfold naturally. Nora and Lance had created this situation through their own choices. The prank, the affair, the threats, all of it had been their decision. I was just making sure that the truth came to light. But I wasn't done yet. There was one more revelation that would change everything. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Mrs. Biggs, our 70-year-old neighbor, called me at Mike's apartment on Thursday evening. "Graham, dear, I hope you don't mind me calling. I got your number from the phone book." "Not at all, Mrs. Biggs. What can I do for you?" "Well, I've been following all this business with Nora and that young man from the salon, and I think there's something you should know." "What's that?" "It's about Nora's late nights at work. I don't think she was always with Lance." Mrs. Biggs had always been the neighborhood's unofficial watchdog. She spent most of her time in her front garden or sitting on her porch, and she noticed everything that happened on our street. "What do you mean?" "Well, I've seen Lance's red car at your house plenty of times, usually when you were at work, but I've also seen another car, a black BMW, and I've seen Nora leaving with the man who drives it." "What did this man look like?" "Older than Lance. Silver hair, expensive clothes. I think I've seen him at the salon when I drive by." "Sal Benedetto, Nora's boss. The man I'd shown the video to. The man who'd fired both Nora and Lance for their unprofessional behavior." "Mrs. Biggs, are you sure about this?" "Oh, yes, dear. I keep a little notebook of all the comings and goings on the street. You never know when the police might need information about suspicious activity." "Do you still have those notes?" "Of course. Would you like to see them?" 20 minutes later, I was sitting in Mrs. Biggs's living room, looking through a spiral notebook that contained months of detailed observations about my neighborhood. Her handwriting was neat and precise, with dates, times, and descriptions of vehicles and people. The entries about my house painted a clear picture. Lance's red Mustang had been there frequently, usually on weekday afternoons. But Sal's black BMW had been there too, often on evenings when Nora had claimed to be working late at the salon. "Mrs. Biggs, would you be willing to make copies of these pages for me?" "Already done, dear." She handed me a manila envelope. "I had a feeling you might need them." I drove straight to Patricia's office, even though it was after hours. She lived in an apartment above the office and had given me her emergency number. "Graham, what's so urgent that it couldn't wait until morning?" I showed her Mrs. Biggs's notes and explained what they meant. Patricia studied the documentation carefully. "So, your wife was having affairs with both Lance and her boss?" "It looks that way, and Sal fired both of them to cover his own tracks, not because he was genuinely concerned about the business's reputation. This changes everything. If we can prove that Sal was involved with your wife, we can show a pattern of deception that goes far beyond just Lance. It also explains why they both lost their jobs so quickly." "How do we prove it?" "Leave that to me. I have a private investigator who specializes in these kinds of cases." The next morning, Patricia's investigator, a former police detective named Ray Morrison, began surveillance on Sal and Nora. It didn't take long to get results. Ray called me that afternoon. "Your wife and this Sal character met for lunch at the Marriott downtown. They were very cozy, holding hands, kissing in the parking lot. I got photos of everything." "What about Lance?" "He's been calling and texting her constantly, but she's not responding. Looks like she's moved on to the older guy with more money." That evening, I got another angry call from Lance. "This is all your fault," he screamed into the phone. "Nora won't even talk to me anymore. She's completely cut me off." "Maybe she found someone with better prospects." "What's that supposed to mean?" "Figure it out, Lance. You're a smart guy." I hung up and immediately called Detective Alvarez to report the violation of the restraining order. Lance was arrested again that night, but the real bombshell came the next day when Ray Morrison called with additional information. "Graham, I did some digging into this Sal Benedetto character. Turns out he's married too. His wife is Maria Benedetto. They've been married 32 years. She's very involved in the Catholic Church, very traditional values." "Does she know about the affair?" "Not yet, but I think she should, don't you?" I thought about what Marty had said about body shots. Precise, calculated hits that do real damage where it counts. "Ray, can you put together a package for Mrs. Benedetto? Photos, timeline, everything?" "Already working on it." That afternoon, Maria Benedetto received a manila envelope containing photos of her husband with my wife, documentation of their meetings, and a detailed timeline of the affair. Ray delivered it personally to the Benedetto home while Sal was at work. The results were immediate and devastating. By evening, Sal had been kicked out of his own house. By the next morning, Maria had filed for divorce and was demanding half of everything, including the salon. By the end of the week, Salon Elegance was closed permanently, with a for sale sign in the window. Nora called me, hysterical. "Graham, What did you do? Sal's wife found out about us, and now everything is ruined. I didn't do anything, Nora. Your choices caught up with you. You sent someone to spy on us. You had us followed. I documented the truth, just like I've been doing all along. Sal is broke now. His wife is taking everything. He can't help me anymore. So you were counting on him to support you after our divorce? Silence. Nora, how long has this been going on? How long have you been cheating with Sal? It's not what you think. How long? 2 years, she whispered. 2 years. While I was working double shifts to pay for Sophie's school clothes and our mortgage payments, Nora had been having an affair with her boss. The Lance thing had just been a side distraction. And the prank? Was that Sal's idea too? No, that was Lance. He was jealous of Sal and thought if he could help me get a good divorce settlement, I might choose him instead. So you were playing them against each other? It wasn't like that. Then what was it like, Nora? Explain it to me. But she couldn't. She hung up, and I never heard from her again. The final confrontation came at the annual Founders' Day Festival, a community event held every October in the town square. I hadn't planned to go, but Sophie convinced me. Dad, you can't hide forever. Besides, I want people to see that you're doing okay. She was right. I'd been laying low for weeks while the legal proceedings moved forward, but it was time to show my face in public again. The festival was crowded with families, local vendors, and a small stage where community groups performed. I was standing near the food trucks with Sophie when I saw them, Nora and Lance, together again, apparently having reconciled after Sal's downfall. They saw me at the same time. Nora whispered something to Lance, and they started walking in my direction. Dad, Sophie said quietly, do you want to leave? No, I'm not running from them. Lance reached us first, with Nora close behind. He looked terrible, unshaven, hollow-eyed, wearing clothes that looked like he'd slept in them. Graham, he said loudly, loud enough for people nearby to hear, I want everyone to know what kind of man you really are. A crowd was starting to gather. I could see people pulling out their phones, ready to record whatever was about to happen. You destroyed my life, Lance continued. You got me arrested, got me fired, ruined my marriage. All over a harmless prank. Lance, I said calmly, you destroyed your own life. I just documented what you did. What I did? What about what you did? You had us followed. You sent private investigators to spy on us. I gathered evidence of your illegal and unethical behavior. That's not the same thing. Nora stepped forward. Graham, please. Can't we just put all this behind us? For Sophie's sake. I looked at my daughter. She shook her head slightly. Nora, you filed a false police report. You had an affair with your boss and your coworker. You tried to set me up to look bad in divorce proceedings. And now you want to put it all behind us? It was just a prank. No, I said, pulling out my phone. This was just a prank. I opened the video app and started playing the body camera footage on my phone's speaker. The crowd around us grew larger as people heard the audio. Nora's fake fear, Lance's laughter, the humiliation in my voice as I realized what was happening. When the video ended, the crowd was silent. Then someone started clapping. Then someone else. Within moments, half the people at the festival were applauding. Lance's face turned red. You bastard, he said, and took a swing at me. I'd been expecting it. All those years of boxing training with Marty paid off. I ducked the punch easily and stepped back, hands up in a defensive position. Lance, don't do this. There are too many witnesses. But he was beyond rational thought. He swung again, wildly, and this time I had to defend myself. I caught his arm, used his momentum against him, and sent him stumbling backward into a display of pumpkins from one of the vendor booths. Lance went down hard, covered in smashed pumpkins and mud. The crowd laughed and cheered. That's enough, said a voice behind me. Detective Alvarez was pushing through the crowd, along with 2 other officers. Detective, I said. I was defending myself. Everyone here saw it. I know. We saw it too. She gestured to Lance, who was trying to get up from the pumpkin mess. Mr. Pritchard, you're under arrest for assault in violation of a restraining order. As the police cuffed Lance for the 3rd time in 2 weeks, I felt a hand on my shoulder. It was Marty. Nice work, kid. Clean, defensive, no unnecessary force. Just like I taught you. Nora was crying now, the center of attention, but not in the way she'd wanted. People were staring at her, whispering, pointing. Her reputation in this town was finished. Sophie hugged me. I'm proud of you, Dad. For what? For standing up for yourself, for not letting them get away with it. As we walked away from the festival, leaving Nora and Lance to deal with the police and the crowd of gawkers, I felt something I hadn't felt in months. Peace. The divorce was finalized 3 weeks later. I got the house, joint custody of Sophie, and a clean break from the marriage that had been slowly hurting me for years. Nora got nothing except a criminal record and a reputation that would follow her for the rest of her life in this town. Lance pleaded guilty to assault and terroristic threats. He got 6 months in jail and 2 years probation. His divorce from Sarah cost him his car, his apartment, and most of his savings. Sal lost his business, his marriage, and his standing in the community. Last I heard, he'd moved to another state to start over. I kept my job, kept my dignity, and kept my daughter's respect. Most importantly, I learned something about myself that I'd never known before. I was stronger than I thought, smarter than people gave me credit for, and perfectly capable of fighting back when someone tried to destroy me. 6 months later, I was promoted to warehouse supervisor. A year later, I started dating again. A nice woman named Jennifer who worked at the library and had never heard of filing false police reports for entertainment. Sophie graduated high school with honors and got a full scholarship to college. She still talks to her mother occasionally, but she lives with me full-time and considers me her primary parent. As for Nora and Lance, they moved in together in a trailer park outside of town. Last I heard, they were both working at a chain restaurant and struggling to make ends meet. Sometimes I see them at the grocery store or the gas station. They always look away when they see me. I don't feel sorry for them. They made their choices, and they're living with the consequences. That's how life works when you're not protected by lies and manipulation anymore. Sometimes people ask me if I regret how everything played out, if I wish I'd handled it differently, been more forgiving, tried harder to save my marriage. The answer is no. Some things can't be fixed, and some people don't deserve forgiveness. What Nora and Lance did to me wasn't just a prank or a mistake. It was a deliberate attempt to humiliate and destroy me for their own entertainment. They thought I was weak, that I would just take it and move on. They thought wrong. As Marty always said, the best punch is the one nobody sees coming. And sometimes, the best revenge is just letting people face the natural consequences of their own actions. I'm 45 years old now, and I'm happier than I've been in years. I have a job I enjoy, a daughter who respects me, a girlfriend who treats me well, and a future that looks bright. Most importantly, I have my self-respect back. Nobody will ever humiliate me like that again because I've learned how to fight back, not with wild punches or emotional outbursts, but with patience, intelligence, and the simple power of truth. That's a lesson worth learning, no matter how much it costs.